It's a little bittersweet, and that's because we're approaching the end, people. Been reacting to the first 6 chapters so far from Ren of his 8 chapters. So this is now chapter 7. So it's almost over. That's the bitter part, but the sweet part is that I've learned so much, and I know you've learned so much from Ren, and then also we're supporting and showing our love and appreciation for Ren. So that's the sweet part. But yeah, it's almost over. So I'm going to pretty much get right into this because it's longer. Like his reaction itself or his talking itself is 22 minutes. Plus he might have another video at the end. I don't know. I didn't pre-watch anything. Unlike music reactions, I will pause this frequently throughout because this is not a music video. So make sure you don't skip to the end, people. To hear what I have to say. And what I pride about this channel is that we're real and authentic because you deserve authenticity. All right. So thank you for everybody that's been pouring into the channels and your lovely comments and wearing your heart on your sleeves. There's safety in numbers. So let's all stand together. One love, as I do. And this is for Ren, mainly for Ren, but then everybody else, as I call the fractured souls around the world. So let's get right into this. Again, this is chapter 7. Here we go. As Tazzz reacts.
Before he even had the test results, the doctor in Brussels glanced up from the form he'd asked me to fill out, and he said, "You have Lyme disease. We can run the tests, but I'm certain of it." I'd heard of Lyme in passing during my hours trawling the internet, but I'd never spent long diving into it. It was an extremely rare disease in the UK that you can get from tick bites, so it never really came across my radar. I sat there, puzzled for a moment. I said, can I get better? He said that many people go on to recover, some don't. Right. I wanted to ask him so many questions, but my mind at that moment was totally blank. The test results eventually came back, sure enough, positive for Lyme, and the co-infection Bartonella, along with many other biomarkers which suggested autoimmunity and immune dysfunction. My whole life, I'd been waiting for this moment. To have something printed on a piece of paper that showed that I wasn't actually fucking crazy. That I could shove in the faces of anyone who'd made me feel like a hypochondriac or like a head case. But when the moment finally came, I felt numb. It was hard to rejoice. I had the lingering...
I have to stop right there. He said a powerful word, hypochondriac. Now, I know that there's people out there who are actual hypochondriacs where they think they're sick or they one little sneeze and they think they're sick. But this isn't the case. This is the situation that made me pause of other people thinking that you are the hypochondriac when you're actually sick. There's actually something wrong with you. Nobody knows what it is, but it's real and it's happening and is messing up your life, and you're trying to get resolved, and there's these outsiders who don't know you very well. They think that you're the hypochondriac when you're real. This is legit pain and anguish, and having people not believe in you, like I can't even imagine what that would feel like when you're fighting your own demons and you really need a support system and there's no support system. So that's just gutting. So yeah, let's get back to it. I had to pause there.
PTSD from the psychotic meltdown the year before, which made it pretty hard to break into the realms of happiness. Instead, I did what I always do. I got home and I took to the internet and I researched the best ways to escape. The summer that I got sick, I spent 2 weeks camping in a small festival in Dorset. One night, me and friends decided to climb a nearby hill to build a bonfire in the woods. On the way there, the fields were full of long grass and deer. 3 people, all my age, who all attended that festival came down with ME or fibromyalgia-like symptoms over the course of the next year. One was a friend of the family who was shut in a dark room for years because the light would be too intense for him. Before that festival, he was bursting with life, a successful capoeira dancer, reduced to a zombie. Lyme disease seemed to be as much of a medical labyrinth as ME was.
Those pages.
On one side, there was a whole host of specialists who believed Lyme bacteria becomes chronic, evades the immune system response, can sometimes evade testing, and leads to debilitating symptoms unless treated with a long course of antibiotics. On the other side were doctors who claimed that Lyme can't persist. It's easily treatable with a 2-week course of doxycycline, and further symptoms following that must be due to an autoimmune response triggered by the Lyme, or perhaps an unrelated, undiscovered cause. I educated myself as best I could on all theories, trawling through research papers on PubMed, conversing people in support groups, often contacting leading Lyme scientists via email or phone to ask them questions. Lyme disease is caused by Borrelia, a spirochete bacteria that causes symptoms like extreme fatigue, confusion, joint pain, heart problems, digestive issues, anxiety, depression, and in extreme cases, hallucinations. So everything was adding up. I fell down internet rabbit holes of learning how Borrelia produces outer membrane vesicles, which contain outer surface proteins which can modulate.
So now, okay, this is the chapter where he's getting to Lyme disease. We finally got the proper diagnosis. Like, that's a scary thing because we all, for the most part, believe what doctors tell us because they went to school for it. We didn't go to school for it necessarily. So whatever they tell us we have, we're going to think we have it pretty much. So for all those years to be misdiagnosed with like bipolar disorder and things of that nature and stuff like that, not knowing where here the real culprit is slowly killing you and deteriorating you. It's just horrendous. And it's a scary thing because it makes you should never have to go into a doctor's office wondering like, are they correct? Are they wrong? Like, you know what I mean? So I guess it's good for those people who have had the same doctor for years, but you know, that's not always the case. Not all of us had that luxury. So maybe it makes sense when people say that they want to get second opinions or whatever. You know, I guess it depends on what it is. You know, I mean, obviously if you go into a doctor because you have the sniffles and it's a flu, that's not as severe. But when something like bipolar disorder or something that's serious, that could be something that's affecting you for the rest of your life, maybe those you should get second or third opinions, because either doctors aren't as experienced and they don't want to admit it, or they genuinely accidentally made a misdiagnosis, or even worse, or just as worse, they could just be horrendous bad doctors who just don't give a damn and they just want to get that money from you. So there's all different types of forms. I'm not saying all doctors are bad at all. I'm just saying, like, if it's something that you're diagnosed with that's supposed to affect the rest of your life, if you can, maybe get a second opinion, because it's scary out there. Ren's not the only one in the world who has been misdiagnosed. So that's the scare factor. It's not a matter of necessarily not trusting the doctor. It's a matter of, let me make sure before I commit to this and study on this and do all these things and take all these medications and stuff, that this is really what's wrong with me. Hopefully that will help for future people. Let's get back into it.
Your entire immune response, essentially dampening it for its own survival. It was a truly insidious pathogen, a smart one out of a twisted horror sci-fi. There would be online groups claiming it was created in a lab in Plum Island off America and weaponized. Due to the widespread suffering it seemed to cause, and given how hard it was to treat, it was easy to see how people gravitated towards these sorts of superstitions and speculations. The main thing that made my head swim was the sheer number of treatment options, in part a byproduct of the cognitive dissonance in the medical industry at the time. There were countless antibiotic protocols, herbal protocols, immune system modulating protocols, wackier ones where people would be stinging themselves with bees or swallowing certain helminth parasites to modulate their immune systems. It was a wild west, and I wasn't so naive to be unaware that there were a lot of quacks in that space, selling people snake oil, financially taking advantage of desperation. Like a lot of the medical industry, I despise people and companies who see opportunity to profit from other people's misery. If you're watching this video and you're one of those people, I would highly consider switching your role in the world and being on the right side. One common factor a lot of these protocols seem to share was you would certainly get a lot worse before you got any better. There was something called the Jarisch-Herxheimer reaction. As you kill off the pathogens in your system, they release biotoxins in your body, which are eventually cleared out by your kidneys and liver. These can cause systemic inflammation, additional fatigue, brain fog, mood swings, pain, flu-like feelings. I was no stranger to these things already, but when they got even worse, it was a mental battle. I sought out as many success stories as I could, and I looked for common threads in the ones of the people who made a full recovery. It seemed like long courses of antibiotics were working for some people, but to do it safely I needed to be in the care of a specialist. The NHS were fucking useless. After multiple appointments, one with an infectious disease specialist, they told me the most they could give me was a couple-week course of doxycycline. I knew that probably wouldn't be enough. They told me chronic Lyme wasn't something that they recognised. I presented them with printouts of much of the research I'd gathered online for the most recent studies, which they dismissed. One of them told me I seemed obsessed, and they asked me if I thought about getting a hobby. I fantasised about dragging him by his tie across his desk and pressing a stapler into his skull. Then I politely got up and left. Doxycycline would lead to improvements for a short time frame, and then my symptoms would come creeping back. I tried many antibiotic and herbal approaches to treat the Lyme without much luck. I tried things like Rife treatment, which is essentially running an electromagnetic pulse through your body in hopes that it will kill the bacteria. I was desperate. It seemed that America took Lyme disease far more seriously than the UK, which made sense as it was far more prominent there. I settled on a doctor called Dr. Gemsack over in Washington, and when I could, I would busk or I'd sell music online to raise money. My girlfriend at the time also ran a fundraiser, and my mum said that she'd also help contribute towards flights. It's not easy being sick and broke, but somehow we made it work.
Powerful statement there. It's not easy being sick and broke, because not everybody who's sick has money or has health insurance, let alone good health insurance, to seek treatment. So I feel bad for the people that are sick and broke, because now you have to add to that being sickness, you have to add to the worry factor of can I afford medicine or the upkeep of it, because sometimes you have to be on medicine for the rest of your life. Sometimes medicines aren't just for like flu related where you take it for 10 days and then you're done. Sometimes you might have to take medicine for the rest of your life, like people that are diabetic. I feel for people that are diabetic and don't have medical coverage or the finances to get it continuously. Yeah. And then, like he had said, they were more on top of it basically in the USA versus the UK, because the USA had it more and stuff like that. So I never really thought of that. Like, as far as like, I thought like, like, for instance, cancer. I always thought, I'm admitting my ignorance, I always thought like cancer's bad everywhere. But I never thought of like, oh, well, maybe it's more pronounced in one country versus another country, so that other country might be really gung-ho on seeking help because they have it more of an influx of it. So that's something to, again, learn from Ren. So there you go. All right, let's get back to it.
A week before I was due to fly out, something happened which changed my whole life. I've always been a believer in the good that you're putting out in the world coming back to you. Luck, therefore, is more of a karmic consequence. When I was making video blogs, I wasn't doing it to build a following or for any sort of social merit or personal gain. I was doing it because I thought I was going to die. I was doing it because I wanted to feel like I'd left some sort of positive mark on the world, like I'd helped. I remember waking up one morning and going through the comment section of the latest video I'd posted, only to find a message from a British doctor who is running a clinic over in Germany in Los Angeles. He is the third and final angel of this story. He was reaching out to offer to help, and he didn't want anything in return. We exchanged messages and ended up jumping on a video call together. The angel explained that he sympathised with my story. His son was a musician, and at his clinic he'd seen firsthand the countless times the destruction that Lyme disease was causing. He explained his clinic was involved in cutting-edge stem cell procedures and seeing promising results for various autoimmune and Lyme patients. The cost of the procedure was upwards of $25,000, something that I could never afford. But he said that every year he personally selected patients to attend his clinic for free. He would offer me the treatment free of charge. All he wanted me to do was document my experience. It made sense to me that if Borrelia was able to modulate the immune system for its own survival, that an intervention that focused on immunological homeostasis would help. The clinic also offered antibacterial IVs targeting the Lyme and various other treatments intended to build the body back up after years of chronic health complications. I was kind of in shock. When a stranger reaches out and offers something so generous, it's natural to doubt his intentions, but something told me to trust this kind offer. I really had nothing to lose, and as morbid as it sounds, my willingness to die made it easy to throw myself into a more experimental procedure. There was also some security in the fact that he wanted me to document my experience and share it with the world. If it had been more sinister, surely he wouldn't want that sort of exposure.
This is so powerful, and it makes me think of so many things. Like, I relate to a lot of things in life to the ripple effect. If you ever heard me mention that before, like, the ripple effect when you drop like a pebble or something in a body of water, how there's that continuous ripple that keeps growing and growing and growing, and it all is connected in some way. So this makes me think of the ripple effect because, like you said, since he was already thinking about his end of life, about dying, it made him more easy to say, well, I might as well give it a chance, because if I was already going to think of dying, then why am I worried about this procedure if it could kill me? That's a ripple. And then another ripple is this doctor. Now, this doctor could have said, I charge $25,000 point blank, period. And then that would have been it. Ren didn't have the money, so he would have said no. But the fact that this doctor said he gives certain people the procedures for free, and he gave Ren the one for free, another ripple effect, because that continues on the ripple. So then now Ren does A and then B and then C. Do you see what I'm talking about? So many, if everything we do in life is a ripple effect. If you get up and get in your car, and then when you get to a light, you turn left as opposed to turning right, you've created a ripple going left to whatever you do after that. Versus what would have happened if you went right? How would your day have ended? Or things like that. So I always think of the ripple effect constantly. So thinking is, first of all, yes, shout out to the doctor, because the fact the doctor saw him in the video and wrote something in the comment, then there was a ripple that Ren actually read that comment, because Ren probably doesn't read every last single comment. He read that comment. Then it had to be Ren wondering, like, this is free. It's your normal sense to be like, is this too good to be true? And Ren could have just said no, even if it was free. But again, he said yes, which is a ripple. So many things ripple out and stuff like that. To me, it's fascinating. At the same time, it's chaotic, because sometimes I have to stop myself, like, all right, stop. But let me know if you can relate to the ripple effect, how things are continuous and they're threaded together in your daily life that goes on for days and weeks and months and years. It's always some type of tethered path. So let's get back into this.
I decided I'd still go to the initial consultation with Dr. Jemsek, as I'd raised the money, but I would catch a flight to LA once it was done. Money was still an issue. The entire treatment length was about 6 weeks, and back then I could have never afforded the accommodation for that long. I decided to hop on Facebook, and I found a Lyme support group based in LA. There, I found people going through the treatment at the clinic who were happy to put me up in their guest rooms. Despite all our faults, human beings' ability to empathize, lift up strangers, and collectively solve problems purely because it's the right thing to do is such a beautiful characteristic to carry. I sincerely hope that we can find ways to hold on to our own empathy and humanity as we step into the future. I believe these traits will save us as a species. Survival of the fittest is a myth in a society where we have all our basic needs met. It becomes survival of those willing to cooperate. The time came and I flew out to America with Momoko, keeping me company and keeping an eye out in case my health crashed. I went to the initial consultation in Washington, D.C. They recommended that I get on a minimum of a year-long course of various antibiotics and supplements, some to be rotated. I saw this as my fallback plan if the stem cells didn't work. We then headed to LA. It was summertime, so it was boiling. The clinic was based in Beverly Hills. The juxtaposition of spending most of my life in waiting rooms that were falling apart, feeling like a defective product on a conveyor belt that's being rushed along only to be dismissed, to then go into being in what felt like a 5-star health spa where there seemed to be a genuine care and interest for my well-being, was quite odd. I was greeted enthusiastically by the doctor. He seemed a lot younger than his age. When I mentioned this, he laughed and he said it was the stem cells. As we spoke, I could see his childlike enthusiasm for what they were doing at the clinic. Stem cells were very in vogue at the time. There was also much territory to explore, and the potential of what they could offer harder to treat diseases was incredibly exciting and promising. It was hard not to feel some of that contagious excitement leaking from the doctor. He explained that because I've been sick and misdiagnosed for so long, it wasn't going to be easy. There was no magic fix. At times I might feel like giving up, but I should trust the process. So I did. When we first arrived, I was staying on the floor of a young couple's apartment. They were just starting treatment.
I like how he was told the honesty. I'm really big on honesty, even if it's not what you want to hear. Like, instead of the doctor saying like, "Oh, you'll be fine. Just do what you're told." He literally said, because of the extent of this not being treated for so long, it's going to be difficult, and there's going to be times you might want to give up, but just trust the process. I like somebody that's real with me, um, and at the same time has a good bedside manner. That's me. So again, that's another reason why this channel prides on being real and authentic. Like, I don't want no BS. Don't BS me and just laugh and giggle and say everything's great, everything's fine. So sometimes I want to hear it. Um, Especially when you're sick. When you're sick, it's like, of course, you don't want to know you're sick, but you don't want the fluff version. Like, oh, you're fine, everything's good, nothing's wrong. Something is wrong. So I'm glad that finally Ren was able to get the correct diagnosis, and that it was a very kind-hearted doctor that reached out an olive branch, starting that ripple effect. Haha. All right, let's get back to this.
The clinic. Fontaine was a songwriter and he was an actor. One night he asked me if I liked bikes, and then he took me out on the back of his Harley Davidson and drove at high speed through the hills surrounding LA. It was interesting talking to Fontaine about her experience. I'd found people I could relate to online, but very rarely did I meet people in person whose experience had mirrored my own. She'd also been through the ringer of misdiagnoses, medical dismissal, left to suffer, trying desperately to claw back her own life. I started to realise this problem wasn't localised to the UK. It was global. So many people were going missing and screaming into a void. The first week at the clinic was aimed at building my body back up. I would sit for hours while various vitamins and nutrients were dripped into my body to address any deficiencies that may have occurred from years of being sick. They also offered talk therapy, lymphatic drainage massage, ways to calm your nervous system that would aid healing. I was still having to pinch myself that this was all free. I felt guilty for the people who had to pay. It wasn't easy. Occasionally I'd have an immune reaction to one of the IV drips. I didn't know at the time, but I had mast cell activation syndrome, which meant my body would become highly inflamed in response to many food, vitamins, even things like perfumes or scents from everyday cleaning products could set it off. A year later, while in the German clinic, I would be minutes away from nearly dying after going into anaphylactic shock during an IV drip. A nurse luckily caught me in the nick of time and injected me with an EpiPen. I spent a night in the emergency ward with Germans who couldn't speak a word of English, who put me on an electrolyte drip that made me feel even worse. During the second week in...
That's another ripple effect. I mean, if he wasn't seen going into shock and then get a pen injection, and there could possibly be no Ren, that would have been the end of that ripple. But see, there's so many things that are just tethered in our lives, and sometimes I find it fascinating to hear journeys of people, good and bad, because the ripple effect is not just for tragic things, but it just makes you wonder. It's also kind of cool to kind of see your map, so to speak, your roadmap that you've been taking in life. So yeah, this is such a learning experience, these chapters and stuff. And it also gives you different mindsets and things like that. Like, it makes you think differently sometimes too, if you run across somebody who says that they're sick, to maybe before listening to Ren, you may have thought they were a hypochondriac or whatever. But this listening to Ren makes you say to yourself, they could really be sick. Maybe they're not crying wolf. Maybe you should be that shoulder for them to lean on, because imagine being sick and there is no support system. So learning a lot here, people. And I'm learning a lot also from you in the comments. It's great that we have this commonality, even though it's a saddening commonality, it still is supportive and it's positive and it makes you feel good knowing that you're not alone. Yeah. All right, let's get back to this.
In LA, I moved places to stay with another couple. The husband had been a prop and set designer for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They were extremely generous with their time and space and became almost surrogate parents to me and Momoko. There is an unusual companionship you feel with someone who has faced similar levels of suffering as yourself, like an unspoken bridge of understanding. At the time, I was having difficulties with my girlfriend. I wanted her to come with me to LA, as this felt like a pretty pivotal moment in my life. It was a time where I really just wanted to feel safe, but she couldn't take the time off work. I think I felt a little bit funny about the fact Momoko had made the time and sacrificed her own work and she hadn't. She was being distant with me whenever we spoke on the phone, which frustrated me more and more. We ended up arguing a fair bit. I think this is the beginning of seeds that would soon grow into finding extremely difficult to be in relationships in general. I usually feel pretty unlovable, extremely isolated, very antisocial. I felt alienated, often bitter that most people go through their lives not knowing what it's like to hurt every day, that they didn't appreciate the freedom their bodies allowed them as they should. To be alive and to not hurt is a blessing. To be alive and not hurt is all I want. The day of the stem cell transplant finally arrived, and I was nervous, as you would.
Let that resonate. Let that resonate. If someone asks you the question, what do you want? If your response was to be alive and not hurt, that is very powerful, and it's raw, and it's also saddening because, you would hope and want that your body is not in any pain and that you're good. So then when someone asks you, what do you want? Like, let's say that there's a genie. Let's say that genies are real. You would want to hope that you can wish for something that, like money or some type of prosperity or a nice big house on a hill or something. But now you have to use that wish, if wishes were true like that, and say, I wish to be alive and not hurt. I mean, it's very saddening, but it also is realistic. And I think there's too many people in the world that live in the clouds and think that, oh, I'm fine, everything's okay. For those that are in denial, wake the fuck up. Keeping it real. So, because there's people out there, I actually know some that are in denial about so many things. And I consider myself a very giving and thoughtful person, but then when I can depict that someone is just living in their own la la land, I kind of back off because I get frustrated because I'm trying to help you, but you're not helping yourself. You have to at least want to help yourself. I'll meet you halfway, but I'm not going to come all the way there to the end and pull you to the middle. Do you know what I mean? Just being honest. So humbling and saddening what he said, that would be his wish if he had a wish, versus being able to ask for something fun and jovial. All right, so let's get back to this. I got in a moment there.
Would be getting a giant fucking metal rod shoved into your skin. The doctors offered me an anti-anxiety med, and I was never one to turn down free drugs. With autologous stem cell transplant, they take cells from your own fat, centrifuge them, and then do some magic science shit and then feed them back to you in an IV. To acquire these cells, they have to do liposuction. The issue was I was already skinnier than a shadow on a cloudy day.
I didn't know that. They had to liposuction to get all that? Well, because I'm the opposite body-wise of Ren, so, I mean, damn. Take some of my fat and do good with it. I didn't know that they did that. I never really knew what they did with stem cells and stuff like that. I just knew of it. Okay. Wow. Another learning experience. So, yeah, somebody needs to take my big ass and do something with that. Here we go.
They would usually take the fat from the stomach, but as I had virtually no body fat, they had to go in through the back near my coccyx. They spent about 20 minutes sawing away at your insides and separating your muscle from fat. Then they inject you with a liquid that breaks it down and they suck it back out. Fresh for the stem cell harvest. There's a video of me drugged up and laughing as a needle as big as my forearm gets rammed into my back.
Yeah, because he has no fat.
I returned home pretty bruised up, but full of hope.
Like they're digging for gold. And so I'm pretty kind of bruised up. I've got these two little holes here where they took the stem cells out and they put them back in my arm. You can't really see on this camera because the light's too much, but I've got more holes in my arm than a Scottish heroin addict.
I'd met people at the clinic who were further along the process than me, who were singing the praises of how much better they felt. For the first 3 months, I didn't really notice much, but I was told it would take time. I was already doing somewhat better from the 6 weeks of IVs. It's an unusual psychological space to be teetering on the precipice of hope that your whole life could change. There's a certain tension and a certain excitement that comes with that. I was also having big problems with my girlfriend at the time. I'd found out some things that had really shaken my trust. In retrospect, I should have just walked away then and there, but I held on because part of me blamed myself. In my sickness, I held people at a distance, so I felt like I deserved negative things. We would fight a lot. The health problems added a whole new dimension to something that would be hard for any couple. I couldn't trust that she loved me as much as she said she did because of certain things that I found out. A few months after the transplant, me and her decided to get away from everything and stay with a mother on the south of Spain. One night, we were sat on the grass, looking up at the sky, being surrounded by avocado and lemon trees. It felt like we were in some sort of Eden-like paradise. She asked me to marry her. It was her way of proving that she loved me and would always love me. And I said yes, but I meant no. Even when we went to pick out rings, I just felt scared. I lost the ability to trust love. I don't fully blame her for that. She was an awesome person trying to navigate a complicated situation. I blame my sickness. My sickness was an inseparable from me, and so I blame myself. After about a month of being home, she sat down with me one day and told me she decided to move to Australia for a year. She told me it wouldn't change anything between us. I had my doubts. Despite the additional stress in my life, something amazing was happening. About 4 months after the stem cell transplant, I noticed the desire to leave the house. I noticed more colour in my skin. I joined a gym that was a 3-minute walk from my house. I started working out for the first time in years. Music started pouring back into my life. I was singing more. I was producing more. And this was all leading up to my favourite chapter so far.
It's like I don't work, no. No flame to spark my girl. My Nike's laced in dirt. Shit. I feel like I'm treading on my own soul. My headphones only working on the left side, but I try to live the right life. My eyes wide and I strive to stop my demons gripping from the inside. This road is dark and I can't find the batteries for my flashlight. I'm blind-eyed and I'm tired. Red, go. These drugs don't work. The pain, it takes control. Blood-stained shirt. I feel like I'm always being chased by the devil. I try to talk, but I can't seem to get my spoken words right. And I try to keep my stutter alive. And this life, it can be ish, right? Cut you like a flip knife, twist and make you sick, right? And wishing that these bad thoughts were gone. Sometimes I guess, sometimes it's when it's like time is against me. In my mind I kind of mind, yeah, though my mind it tortures me. But I shine, cause when I shine it's like my shines, they set me free. And I rhyme, I shine so bright, these rhymes come out of me. Times I bleed, times I crawl, times I slip, times I fall. Times my back's up against the wall, so hard that the whole building could fall. Times I bruise, times I break, times I'm true, times I'm fake, times I'm up. When the forward is to open and just swallow me for goodness sake. I think I'm gonna break, cause the ache in his face, I'm awake in the world. In the relate in the way, wait at the world, don't wait, we make mistakes, but it's all this day. Top cake, we eat top cake, sometimes no time for double taste, but
that's just the way life goes sometimes.
But I don't wanna end up in the gutter being bad, but my trouble face down in the puddle where the sun don't shine. I'm coming on the back, on the track, and the top, and there's no peace, living with this, I'm packing and I'm praying. Oh Lord, take this pain away.
Thank you. So that was a song that me and Ren wrote. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's Ren Makes Music, that's REN Makes Music. I am Sam Tompkins UK, that's Sam TOMPKINS UK. This next song is called Same Old Situation. We wrote this not so long ago. Ren Makes Music, that's it.
Wow, that was fascinating hearing them vibing out together. They just sound so melodious together. But we all know, of course, we're fans of Ren. That's why we're here. But when Sam was introduced to the channel, someone had recommended him a while ago, and so we have a few reactions to Sam Tompkins on the channel as well. So I love his voice as well. But that's something how Ren saw Sam one day busking, and he offered an olive branch to Sam. I think it was at the time he offered him like a speaker or something, or microphone, I forget. That was another ripple effect. Because Sam could have said no, he could have been uppity and said no, get away. And, that would have, who knows? Sam could have been on a totally different path that he's not on now. You never know. I wore this hat intentionally for this because this whole ordeal, this whole journey, this whole path that Ren is taking us through his life, it's just survive. That's what he kept saying. He kept saying, even though he had those really, really dark times, there was something in him that wanted to survive. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten as far as he's gotten. And let that also be something for you to survive, to keep going. If you don't want to stop, if you want to see if there's a light at the end of the tunnel or something positive on the other, out of the darkness, then keep going, keep fighting the good fight. And I hope that your light happens sooner rather than later. Because no, it's not always easy. But something in him wanted to survive, and I'm so glad that it did. He's been such a bright light to all of us, but mainly, first and foremost, to himself. And I'm glad that he's better than he was. But life is still full of struggles, so you keep pushing on. So yeah, let us know your thoughts. Let us know how you loved about this chapter. And again, we're reaching the end, just one more chapter to react to. But again, the focal point is to show our love for Ren, to gain him more exposure, notoriety, and to reach more people that have been through or are going through the pain and hardships that he's gone through, to know that you're not alone. There's safety in numbers. Some people feel that they are alone in their struggles, but no, you're not. Okay, there's people that care. There's people that have a listening ear. You saw there was a doctor that paid for his medical treatments and stuff like that. So, but even if it's a listening ear, sometimes just letting stuff out into the atmosphere verbally can just release so much damage that's inside of you. You know, it's like that anchor. You want to just lift up the anchor and start moving again. Sometimes just talking about it can help you. So flood the comments, tell people about Ren, spread this to your social media sites. So yeah, thanks for tuning in along. I hope you stayed thus far, and we're part of this process with me. One love, as I always say. So all right, if you want to see the other chapters, because I've now done all 7 of them and stuff, so you can go check out another one there, right there, right there.